Welcome to Kev Talks, Real World Global Logistics. I'm Kevin Parkerson.
And I'm Kevin Higgins. Together we bring you over 60 years in combined experience in global logistics.
In each episode, we'll dive into the latest industry trends, share practical tips, celebrate wins, and share stories from the logistics front lines, all while helping businesses optimize their logistics operations.
Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of Kev Talks, Real World Global Logistics. I'm Kevin Parkerson.
And I'm Kevin Higgins. We're excited to bring you insights and stories from the real world of global logistics.
So before we dive into today's topic, let's share a little bit about what you can expect from this podcast.
Oh, you want me to talk about the mission?
Yes.
Okay, I'll talk about the mission. Here at Kev Talks Real World Global Logistics, we aim to be your premier source for expert insights and innovative strategies in global logistics and supply chain management. Hosted by Kevin and I, the two seasoned industry veterans, each with over 30 years experience. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and connect professionals across the logistics landscape. We're going to dive into the latest trends. We're going to share actionable advice and bring forward the voices of industry leaders to help our listeners navigate the complexities of the global supply chain with confidence and foresight.
Wow, that's a mouthful, but that's great. That's exactly what our mission is in putting this podcast together. I also wanted to share a little bit about the location of where you and I are at.
Yeah.
It's an integral part of our career. Who we are, but we're in Northwest Arkansas, so home of the largest retailer, Walmart, home of the second largest publicly traded trucking company, J.B. Hunt,
Yep,
home of Tyson Foods, the world's second largest processor and marketer of chicken, beef, and pork. Uber Freights is located in Northwest Arkansas, has a representation, as well as many suppliers to these companies that I just mentioned. Also, University of Arkansas. The Sam M. Walton College of Business, which is frequently listed in the top 10 of undergraduate supply chain management logistics programs in the nation.
absolutely.
Crystal Bridges, Terry, great addition to Northwest Arkansas. And then parks and walking and biking trails, hundreds of mountain bike trails, and then I think one of Kevin and I's favorite, a lot of fantastic coffee shops.
Yep.
Hopefully we'll be able to highlight some favorites in future episodes. But now on to more about the podcast, the show itself. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just curious about products, how products move across the globe, we've got something for you. So we'll be chatting with industry experts, sharing our experiences, and maybe even uncovering a few surprises along the way. Some of the future episodes that we're working on, one in particular, U.S. East Coast labor disruption, ILA, automation in the industry, supplier relationships, customer choice, global trade and tariffs, sustainability. All of those are topics that we're looking forward to bringing to you. This first episode really is to let the audience get to know a bit more about us. Let's cover a little bit, Kevin, about our careers thus far, tell how we know each other, kind of go from there.
Yeah, right on. We've known each other for a long time. Let's kind of start right there. So we've known each other since your two girls and my daughter were young, really young. So we've known each other for over 25 years, and
early 90s, I think.
Early to mid 90s. Yeah, I think we were both incredibly young in our careers, and I was already at Walmart. You were at J.B. Hunt, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we met and have remained friends ever since then, despite my behavior probably. But yeah, we've known each other for a long time. Worked around each other, never worked together. I was transitioning out, and again, we'll talk about that. But yeah, our girls are all grown now, and which kind of makes me sad. But yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it has. Well, yeah, I'm really excited about doing this podcast with you. Like I said, we've known each other for quite some time and really haven't worked directly with each other. This is our first opportunity to do this, so this is going to be phenomenal. I'm really excited about bringing forward your story, your career, your background, your expertise. I think you've got a lot that you still can do and are doing in your career.
Mm-hmm.
This is one way to get this to a different generation, to all generations, just sharing your background and experience. So I'm really excited about the possibilities with that. So this is going to be great.
Yeah, me too. And I think that's one of the objectives that we have, Kevin. We didn't talk about it specifically, but getting, I know that things are different in corporate America than they were when you and I first entered that, and we had the privilege of doing some really cool things back in the early 90s and early 2000s. And but I think of a lot of what we're going to talk about. I know a lot of what we're going to talk about still applies, and we want to encourage the generations that are coming behind us with some of the information that we're going to share. So I'm really, really excited about that.
Yep, me too as well. So we'll have fun with this. We're going to share a lot of. You've got a lot of great stories that I'm going to pull out of you. So I'm looking forward to being able to do that.
Oh, great.
Maybe with that, let's start with. Let's give the audience just a little bit more detail. Maybe tell us how you got started from the very beginning, a little bit about your career, and then I'll share a little bit about mine as well.
Okay, right on. Don't you stop me anytime, because I will talk. So I didn't set out to be in logistics. I was in high school and part of a general cooperative education program where we had to actually have a job, and that was a career oriented job. It just couldn't be, a fast food job. You had to have a career oriented job, and they would help you get that. I became a dental technician where I learned to make crowns and bridges, and I was very, very interested in that field, and did that even after I graduated high school. I started attending the University of Arkansas, was a biology major, and had intentions of becoming a dentist. And I really wasn't too excited about college. And so my grades reflected that 100%. And you're not quick enough to get home and check the mail before your mom gets home, and university sends a academic probation letter. Kind of encouraged me, like, oh man, kind of encouraged me to start seeking other opportunities. So I decided to throw myself into being a dental technician, and was looking at the options. I was looking to move to Dallas or move to St. Louis, and talking to some different labs in those locations, and happened to be dating a girl at the time, and her dad owned a trucking company. And I grew up in trucking. My dad was a truck driver. Uncle was truck drivers. I've written blog posts about my family. We called them the crew. They were all truck drivers. And my this girl that I was dating apparently had talked to her dad and told him that I was going to move. And so he asked me if I would give consideration to coming to work for him. And he offered me, I don't know, I was probably making $10 an hour at the time. And he offered me a pretty significant increase to come over and run the day-to-day operations of his trucking company. Taught me everything that I needed to know. First place he put me was in the back of a trailer unloading Daisy BBs. So he made me, similar to the way my father was with me. He's like, you got to learn it from the ground up before you can actually manage the process and help people be better. So I learned everything about operations. His trucking company merged with another one. I got an operations job to go do that, and then went through it. It was the late 80s. And so holding companies and corporate takeovers were still a thing back then. And so I went through a series of takeovers in the trucking industry, and I ended up at JB Hunt in the late 80s in 1988, and then was recruited to go early 89 to go to another trucking company to do some marketing. Then that company was acquired. It was like every 9 months I was somewhere else because they were acquiring all these companies, and to kind of, it was all less than truckload, full truckload. And then the last less than truckload carrier that I was with got acquired in 1991. And I got a call from somebody who was a family friend, and they were in the international business. And they're like, you want to come over and learn about international? I'm like, yeah, I'll do anything because I don't have a job. And international was a completely different space, different terminology, acronyms. It was all different. But I went to a company called Distribution Services Limited in 1991 as a 24-year-old kid. And I didn't realize it at the time how lucky I was. It was founded by a gentleman. His name was Phil Clark Sr. and Cobb Grantham were the two founders of the company. And I didn't realize what a legend Phil was until later in my career with them. But my job was just to open doors, just to knock on the doors, get an appointment so that I could bring in a regional manager, try to sell some international. One day I'm sitting in the office and I'm writing up what my week is going to look like. And this Phil was not a man of great stature. He was a little guy. He walks in a powder blue suit and probably had a cigar hanging out of his mouth or something. And he walks in and he's like, I'm Phil, what's your name? And I'm Kevin. He's like, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm planning my week. And he's like, what are you doing right now? And I said, well, I'm just planning my week. And he's like, come with me. So he takes me over to a meeting at Walmart. And I had no idea. Walmart had never been on my radar screen at all relative to an opportunity for employment or anything. And so we go over there. We sit down at Bill Field's office. J.R. Campbell comes in. This is probably 92, somewhere in that neighborhood. I had no idea who Bill was, no idea who JR was. Bill was like 6'5". JR was like 5'7". And these guys were incredible human beings. And we sat down and I just listened and I was in awe of this relationship and how these things worked. And at the end of the day, Phil looked at me and he's like, I want you to go over and talk to the import people once a week because they're important. The import people at Walmart. That's what he called them. Go over there and talk to everybody and go over there once a week. And because at the time DSL was handling Walmart's, some of their ocean freight, some of their transload, all of their transload, in fact. And so I just went over there once a week. And then once a week became, once a day. And then it became a full-time job. And pretty soon it was a full-time job. That's what I did is I took care of Walmart. We grew the business. We handled relationships. Phil taught me the importance of having relationships with everybody. I didn't meet with Bill Fields and JR. I met with the people who were actually doing the work. And so we developed this incredible business relationship with these people, and the business just continued to grow. Well, apparently JR saw something in me. Walmart was, relatively small. I mean, they were big at the time, but relatively small in the import game. I think probably when I was working with them at DSL, 40,000 containers a year around the world, something like that. And JR tried to convince me a handful of times to come work for them and run their transportation program. And I told him no, love my job. I love Phil. I love what I'm doing. I can do for you here what I could do for you there, that kind of stuff. And anyway, things progressed. And one day in Miami, he told me that I made the biggest mistake of my life by turning them down. And I'm like, wait, let's talk about this. And so I called Phil and I'm like, hey, JR keeps trying to get me to go to work for him. And he's like, you need to go to work for him. And I'm like, but I love what I do here. He's like, this would be the biggest thing that you could do for your career. And again, remember, I dropped out of college. So I'm also thinking like I can go do some things. I've got a great job. Wasn't making a tremendous amount of money, but I can go to work for Walmart as, somebody who doesn't have a college education. And it was on my mind. So it feels like you need to go do it. So I sat down with JR and I said, listen, I don't have a college education. And JR looked at me. He's like, have I ever asked you where you went to college? And I'm like, no, sir. He's like, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. He goes, what matters to me is that you get things done. So do you want this job? And I'm like, well, I'll take the job. Here's the requirements. He's like, okay, you want to call Phil? You want me to call Phil? I'm like, oh man, I just left a ton on the table. But that was in 1994. I got the opportunity to go be the first manager of international transportation under what was called International Merchandising Division at the time. Later became Direct Imports. And in 1998, they formed the Global Sourcing Division. As part of Global Sourcing, we formed Global Transportation. And so I had the chance to become the first director of global transportation for Walmart stores, build a team that would manage the ocean freight, air freight, consolidation, deconsolidation for every retail country around the world. And it was absolutely one of the greatest opportunities and greatest jobs that I could have ever had. And I was incredibly fortunate to get that role and to recruit people like Brian Most and John Visser and Jeff Brazil and Sandra Cobb. And, there's a whole list of people. And then people that got the opportunity to come behind like yourself. Right. And, so I did that for 7+ years. And, Mike Duke and Jeff McAllister asked me to go do some different things. And so I went over to the private fleet and helped integrate the grocery private fleet into the asset-based private fleet. Did that for 3 years. Then got the startup bug. I wanted to create something again. And so I had the opportunity to go to Transplace. They did not have an international strategy. And Tom Sanderson, who was the COO at the time, recruited me to come over there and develop the international strategy for Transplace. I did that for 4 years and helped them. It actually was part of the incentive for them to sell out from underneath the ownership structure of the 7 trucking companies that had created Transplace. And now they're Uber Freight, which was amazing. And then, I went to work for a freight forwarder, and then I had the opportunity to join a couple of guys who were creating a chassis reservation system. Marine chassis were a big problem and getting access to them back around 2011, 2012. So we created what we call hotels.com for marine chassis, chassisfinder.com. And we were the first reservation platform for the what we call the IEPs, intermodal equipment providers, the FlexiVans, DCLIs, Trax, to place their daily rentals onto our platform and make them available for truckers. We ran that company for 4 years, sold it to Milestone Equipment in 2016. I exited 2017, got right back into chassis as a consultant and stayed there until 2020 primarily, and then have done a series of consulting opportunities in the past 4 years. But now I have joined forces with a couple of people, Mike Simon being one of those who was instrumental in some technology we developed at Walmart to handle our container allocation. And Mike Simon and I have joined with a company called SwiftAnt to form a group called Swift B2B. And we are bringing back forecast and allocation. That's one of the things we did at Walmart is we created this tool called Transport Tools, which did container allocation based on our contracts and our allocation to the carriers, and all our POs hit, and the system just automatically did the work for us, and it just allowed us to grow significantly for a lot of years. I think you guys used it up until about 2016, 17, and we launched that in the summer of 99. And so we're formed a group called Swift B2B, and we are going to do supply chain visibility and execution differently than what we see in the marketplace today. we're going to be focused on the product and less on the logistics terms, the containers and the purchase orders. We're going to be focused on product and giving actionable insights around product as well as forecast and allocation. So we're very early stage on that, but I'm incredibly excited about what's about to happen in that regard. So stay tuned. We'll be talking a lot more about that later, but not a commercial for them. But I've had an incredible career, and I feel like I'm just getting started. Honestly,
Yeah.
you know, after being in this for 37 years, I still feel like I'm just now getting started.
You are, and that's a phenomenal story, and that's, one of the reasons why I'm really excited about this podcast with you, because you can bring forward a lot of those experiences. You've got an entrepreneur spirit that I really, really love to champion as well. But I love you for the type work that you've done, but the type work that you're going to be doing in the future. So
Thanks.
this is going to be really exciting. I can't wait to hear. You've got a ton more stories.
Oh,
We
man.
are like barely even touching any of this, but we'll bring forward a lot of those stories that I know will be very helpful for the podcasting community to hear some of these stories and some of the best practices and experiences. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that.
I am too, because I do believe that, I mean, we could spend probably weeks talking about the things that you and I've been through in our careers and some of the incredible things that we learned. But like just me having the exposure to people like Bill Fields, and that's a name that a lot of people won't recognize, but I hope that we can, there are things, I hope we can tell the stories about those legends and the things that they taught me, the opportunities that they gave me that will apply to somebody who's starting out in this field. Simple things. I have a whole file drawer down here of things that I've learned from these people. So I look forward to getting into those stories and talking about. People may not want to hear them, but there's some nuggets in there that'll be good.
There's some great ones. We'll definitely have some legends, quite a few legends, as special guests on the podcast. Looking forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. So
Well, that's great.
what about you?
Yeah. So let me tell you a little bit of my story and kind of how we connected and why. But I'm born and raised from Arkansas and Southeast Arkansas actually, and went to college in Central Arkansas, and that's where I met my college sweetheart. Married my college sweetheart, and she was from Bentonville. She is from Bentonville. We got married. We had an agreement. Whoever got the first job, the solid job, that's where we would make our home and relocate. And she was smart. She got a job in Northwest Arkansas.
She knew what she was doing.
Got married, came to Northwest Arkansas. I tell the story. At that time, this is the early '90s. If you're gonna work anywhere in Northwest Arkansas, it's one of three. It's Walmart, J.B. Hunt Transport, or Tyson Foods. And I did apply at all three. And I was fortunate enough to be hired in the supply chain world at J.B. Hunt Transport in the early days, of their intermodal division. I started off one of the very few first intermodal employees. At that time, it was just, they're resurrecting the branding of Quantum. And I specifically remember that in the early '90s.
Yeah.
That's where I really cut my teeth on supply chain, and stayed and learned as much as I could. Had some great teachers, great mentors. Stayed there for about a decade. But then this crazy guy called me up one day and said, "Hey, I've got this role that I think is great for you. It's called the Jones Act." And I had no clue. And I think I told you I have no clue about the Jones Act, about maritime,
Mm-hmm.
J.B. Hunt. I'm saying trucks and trains. Tell me a little bit more about that. So you opened that door and gave me an opportunity to interview and to explore a whole another part of supply chain. So I started my career at Walmart managing Jones Act, and ended up staying at Walmart learning from some phenomenal leaders, phenomenal service providers that really took me under their wing and taught me about, maritime, ocean logistics, freight forwarding. During my almost 20 years at Walmart, I had responsibilities, procurement, operations, origin services, freight forwarding, ocean logistics, port drayage. Was able to meet some phenomenal service providers, travel the world, meet with great leaders at other companies, and just learn about maritime and supply chain, international global logistics. And like I said, almost 20 years at Walmart, but then had a great opportunity to relocate out of Northwest Arkansas, empty nesting, raised two grown daughters, had an opportunity to join the Dollar General team, and relocate to a great city, Nashville. I love live music, and outside of the great opportunity at Dollar General, the fact that I could live 20 minutes from downtown Nashville was a big draw.
Yeah.
So made the relocation to Dollar General, managing and leading their international global logistics team. So after about a year there, I had a need to be back in Northwest Arkansas. My wife's family, aging parents, etc., and had an opportunity of a remote position with Hasbro and leading as vice president of their international logistics team. They're based out of Providence, Rhode Island, and I was able to relocate back to Northwest Arkansas and manage that business. After almost a year there, I had an opportunity to kind of go into the entrepreneur side of supply chain. Started my own consulting business, KP Global Logistics Consulting, which I'm happily running right now from my home in Northwest Arkansas, and really thoroughly enjoying that aspect of my career, using all of my background, my experience, work to support small and medium-sized importers and exporters in all things supply chain, helping them develop or enhance their existing network. So I'm really, really excited about the future for me in that role and helping others. But also really enjoy and have the opportunity to do things like this outside of still part of supply chain, but outside of the corporate world, and do podcasting and sharing background and experiences, and connecting with people like yourself, and bringing forward a lot of the stories, a lot of the experiences that I know can help and benefit the audience. So that's my story. Really excited about this format and doing this format with you.
Yeah, same here. And I think you probably you've undersold a bit of your 20 years at one of the world's largest companies. You coming into Jones Act, working in 3 specific trades: Hawaii, Alaska, Puerto Rico, which is incredibly different. It's the same, only different if you look at global transportation. Trans-Pacific, transatlantic kind of trades, but it's very different, and it's a smaller section with smaller companies that you're dealing with, and sometimes it's 53-foot trailers on a barge, and sometimes it's containerized, and you're dealing with a lot more weather opportunities and things than some of the other trades ever have to consider. And so you saw, coming in, I think, you came in 2002?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you came in 2002, in significant growth. We had grown from 94 to 2002. We had grown, I know, over 200,000 FEU around the world, because I tracked them all, but won't get into specific numbers. But you saw phenomenal growth during your time.
Yeah, we got up to I think close to 400,000 the time that I left to go to Dollar General. We were up to 400,000. So a lot of changes, a lot of events, a lot of experiences with weather events, labor events.
Yeah.
Really, I've tapped into recently the experiences in the background and the network and the people, the leaders that I've had the pleasure of working alongside, bringing forward a lot of those experiences, helping small and medium-sized importers and exporters navigate through what the current environment is today. So, yeah, a lot of experience. Very, very fortunate working for the companies that I've worked for thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. Just huge opportunities that we've both been able to have, and so yeah, I look forward to talking about it.
Yep, we'll bring forward a lot of these stories, that you and I have on future episodes. Really excited about the future episodes and speakers that we're going to be able to highlight. So
Yeah.
With that, that's really all the time we have for today's episode. We thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in to Kev Talks and just listening to us for a little bit. We got a lot to offer, and we appreciate you tuning in. We're bringing real world global logistics your way. So until next time, keep exploring the world of logistics with us.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Stay tuned for the next episode where we'll be diving into ILA, East Coast labor topic. It's going to be another great conversation that you will not want to miss.
Thanks. You will not want to. Yeah, thanks a lot. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Kev Talks, Real World Global Logistics. If today's discussion inspired you, don't forget to follow, subscribe, rate, and share our podcast.
Remember, every great journey in logistics starts with a single step forward. Let's continue working together to transform the industry.